Everybody, me here again. Well, this time last year, or around about this sort of time, the New Year's resolutions. As I say, I never make New Year's resolutions, but you always think about these things because everyone else is doing it. It's always in the media and everything like this. So you always have some sort of evaluation, don't you? But last year, I mentioned in the blog post, which I may well put a link to down here, a written one. And it was all about something that I read that has sort of really made me sort of think for lots of different reasons. And it was from a lady, an Australian lady called Bronnie Ware. And what she'd done is that she was a palliative care nurse, and so she was dealing and looking after people who were at the end of their life, suffering from cancer. And literally, she was with them in the last few days, weeks, minutes of their life, and she got to know these people quite well. And it must have been some amazing job in some respects, but pretty not very nice in others. But she got a lot out of it because people, obviously, when they're in, I don't know, thankfully, but when you're in that sort of position, you are certainly evaluating what you've done. And what she did, she wrote a particular post, and it was she called it the 5 regrets of the dying, because what she found by talking to these people, obviously when they're the most vulnerable, I suppose, in some ways, and probably the most open, is that they all seem to have similar regrets. And there were 5 things that stood out head and shoulders above everything else. And I'll read them. I wrote them down, actually. And the number one, I think, and sort of the list was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. Some of these sound familiar to you. They certainly sound familiar to me, which is why I'm making this video and wrote that post. The second one is, I wish I didn't work so hard. Talking about that, I actually quit a job today, and I'm moving on. So, there's something. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I think we're all guilty of that in some ways. Number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I know it's a bit easier these days, but even so. Number 5, I wish I'd let myself be happier. A lot of those are quite similar, and that really made me think for a number of reasons. I mean, I've had quite a bit of re-evaluation, and one thing I noticed, because this year has been an interesting year. It's been a topsy-turvy year. To those who know me quite well, they will know there's been lots of stuff going on. I'm not going to talk about it here because that isn't what I do. But in a roundabout way, it's been an interesting year, as I said. And there's a handful of people who know even more about some of the other stuff that's been going on as well. So, but once again, I'm not going to talk about that there. So, but it reminded me 5 years ago. This being 2015. In 2010, I had another one of those years. I think I called it my annus horribilis in a just quoting the Queen, who did that some years ago, because in 2010 my father died, my mother-in-law died suddenly, I lost my job, lots of other things happened. My sister had breast cancer, albeit just she caught it early and all that sort of thing. But so that there was lots and lots of things going on. So my life was in this real state of flux, I suppose. And this year has been another one of those. Maybe these things come round. So I'm dreading what's going to happen in 5 years' time. I'm not going to go into it, but I've been to more funerals this year than I would like to have done. 2 of them were for elderly relatives, and then the other one, unfortunately, was for someone younger than myself who died of cancer, far too young. That what we're just saying about. But all of those, and you go to funerals, and obviously they relay and talk about the person's life, and you're sitting there thinking, if this was me, touch wood and all that sort of stuff, that it won't be for some time yet. But what would they be reading out? And going through those regrets and everything, it really starts to make you think about that. So I've done quite a lot of re-evaluating, and as I said, I've left one job today, New Year's Eve. Another opportunity has come along which I couldn't refuse, partly because of my own making, I suppose. But it's one of those things that I thought, as I said, an offer I couldn't refuse for lots of different reasons. I've done other sort of things that I've been thinking about. I'm going, sort of travelling wise and stuff like that. I was lucky enough to go away a couple of times this year. Next year I'm going, I think there's a book up there. I'm going to Jordan in March, so a place I've always wanted to go to and never got around to. And now I thought, right, I'm going to do it. You know, you need to get off your arse, Andy, and actually do some of these things sometimes. And we're all, as I said, it's those things in that list. We're all guilty of all that type of stuff. And then hopefully I'm going back to Andalusia at least once. I've got one trip planned, and I'm thinking about another one. And I've got possibly going to Peru in 2017. All things being well. So lots of things going on, and it's as I said, it all comes back to those sort of regrets of the dying, because you get to go, I'm not getting any younger. Well, nobody is, I suppose, but ultimately, you know, you can't look back, you can only look forward, I suppose. But you know, it makes you realise with all the things that are going on that you sometimes have to say, you know, grab the bull by the horns and do some of those things. And actually sort of reading that particular the original Bronnie Ware blog post did actually make me think there were things going on before we got to this year, things were building and all that sort of stuff. But this year was, and I was sort of reading that and thinking about all this stuff, and you think you've got to do something, you know. And we're all in that situation. If you're sitting in a funeral, listening to what's happened with some lives, some lives are obviously more interesting in inverted commas than others, and you're sort of thinking, you know, as I said before, that if it was you they were talking about, that what would they be saying? Would they have enough to say, type of thing? I like to think that I've done all right so far, but there's still loads of things that I want to do. There's plenty, whether it be travelling or other sort of stuff as well, and you need to give yourself the opportunity to do that sometimes. And sometimes you have to, you know, sort of make some big decisions, or very big decisions, and say, right, draw a line under that, and move on in one way or another. So there you are. As I said, I always say that I don't make New Year's resolutions, but then I end up starting making videos like this. so maybe I do, and there might actually be some more to that. I wrote a couple of things down here, and I'm sure there was something else I was going to mention, but there you go. Whatever 2016 holds for you, I hope it's something good and it's something interesting. I put a post up earlier on, actually, on Twitter, which goes onto Facebook, just because I just come home from the job and handed in the keys and all this sort of stuff. And you sort of walk out and you think, you always think, hang on a minute, was that the right thing to do? I know it's the right thing to do, and I know that it's something maybe I should have done before, but the opportunity wasn't there. The opportunity was, as I said, so I know, but there's always that element of doubt. But then you sort of read those posts again, those sort of 5 regrets of the dying. You think, yeah, you need to sort of think about these things, whichever one it is. We've all, you know, all of them. I think we're probably all guilty of not doing, you know, sort of expressing your feelings and all that stuff, working too hard. Yes, we've all got things to do. One thing I have learnt after losing my job 5 years ago, in fact 5.5 years ago, a well-paid job, is that you don't necessarily need all the money that you thought you did. You know, you can survive on less. That might not necessarily be what other people think, but personally, and as it says, as one of these sort of things here, live the life that you want to live, not the life that other people want you to lead. You know, yes, we all have to compromise in all of these things. Of course we do, for various reasons. But ultimately you have to be a little bit selfish and self-centered at times. Sounds horrible, but it's your life and you've got to live your life, and you know, you need to be reasonable. But if you, anyway, I'm going to go down that road, I'll get myself into trouble. So I think I will leave it there because I've talked for far too long already. So if you're out on New Year's Eve, enjoy yourself, and let's hope that 2016 is a happy and healthy one for you, and you get to do what you want to do, and at least give it some thought anyway, because you never know what is around the corner. Anyway, I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.